Ford F-150 Lightning XLT versus Rivian R1T Performance dual motor. The Rivian has about 125 kilowatt hour battery pack. Ford is about a 93, and you can get up to 130 kilowatt hour pack, but this does not have it. Price of the Ford significantly lower. This is about $63,000. The Rivian is $90,050, but they start at $73,000. So we're gonna go through the differences between the two of these. The F-150, and again, I'm not really a truck person. I think the Rivian is for people that really aren't gonna use the features of the truck. It's for city folk, we'll call them. Also, a big thank you to EV Access for lending me this brand new F-150 Lightning. You can rent from them, and I will have their information in the description of this video. They have a fleet of 150 EVs, so whether you're coming into Phoenix and want to rent something out, or you're local and you want to just try a different EV, these are the guys to go to. I had an issue early on where I tried to rent something from Hertz, and when I showed up, they didn't have the car that I was trying to rent. You'll never have that issue with EV Access, so check them out. The F-150, I think, is actually going to be something that is used, and there's a lot of features on this that just shows Ford's expertise in knowing how to build a truck for many years. So this is a lightweight full size. This is a light duty luxury pickup truck. So just starting with the front of it, they both have powered frunks, but the Ford actually has vehicle to load. So this can actually charge the Rivian, which I think is an awesome feature. On the inside of this truck compared to the Rivian, it is insane how much more space you have on the inside of the F-150. So let me show you here. So I will get into my seating position right here. So Andrew, who is driving this, 6'3", this is a good seating position for me. Now, when you come into the rear of this, I mean, it's truly like having your own zip code back here. It's insane how much bigger the F-150 is overall. And it has Apple CarPlay and everything like that. And again, like the materials, when you get in a Rivian, it's nice. It has Alcantara roof liner and everything like that. This has these cloth, just durable material. You have this latch right here, you pull it and the seats fold up and you have more storage underneath, and this all opens up. So you can really see the usability of the F-150 Lightning is incredible, and it starts at a much lower price point, which I absolutely love. Moving around to the bed, just open that up right here. It's not power up, but it releases down just like the Rivian. There's a bunch of features on here I could see like maybe a contractor would be using. Look, we got a ruler. Like I said, you can just measure up right here. You sit your coffee here. Look at this. Got a step here. So you can take a look at everything. What is this? So yeah, you got this. See, I'm clearly not a truck person. We got no idea what this is. Is that all it is? Just to help you up? Cameraman just informed me this is just to help you get up, which, I mean, I think you should be able to do this, right? You should be able to do that. So in the bed, you also have these plugs here, which is going to be very useful. You hit this button to turn them on, and the bed is massive. Okay, you can't lay in it if you're 6 feet tall straight, but at an angle, that wasn't helpful at all to anyone. All right, so let's hop over to the Rivian to see how this is. Yeah, just, I mean, a lot smaller. Now, the Rivian did do something cool, and again, the adventure hole, which is right over here. And like, again, this is useful for me because I play golf, city folk. Throw your golf clubs in there, and I think that that's a really nice feature. So that is released by pressing this button right here, and then over here, this releases the bed just like the F-150. It releases it down, but it doesn't power it back up. Now you can see when I lay in this bed, I can almost lay the entire length in the F-150. This is a much smaller bed. I'll have the lengths of the bed on the screen. You have these two plugs here, so you do have some power. You have the AC 120 volts. And then over here, this is a really cool feature. You have a built-in compressor, and the car comes with a hose so you can pump up all of your tires. The other thing, you can set the PSI, so I have it set to 48 because that's what you're supposed to run these tires at. So I turned on the F-150 and I plugged the Rivian in for the V2L charging. It says, the front outlet cover is not shut. Supply power to the front outlets? Yes. So when I do that, the vehicle will run to power supply outlets until the Pro Power Reserve setting is reached. So it's not going to drop the car below a certain setting, that way you can't drive it. Now we should be charging the Rivian. More on the interior of the F-150, kind of a unique feature here. Press this button, shifter goes flat. So that's kind of interesting. But the reason for that is because this folds out, so you could sit here with a laptop and type away and see how many hay bales did we get today, how many cows did we sell at the farm, and then you fold that back up, then you press that, and you put it in gear and you go home and see your wife. So I think that's all very nice. It has Apple CarPlay, which is nice. A lot of people like that. I agree, it's a nice feature. Then when you click features, we have drive modes here. So you have normal, sport, off-road, tow and haul. I bet these are funny, these informational things. For spirited and engaged driving, enhances vehicle acceleration, performance, and driving dynamics. All right, that's better, because when I drove the Mustang Mach-E, it's like bridle. To change the road ahead, it's like some nonsense. This steering wheel here is bigger than a plate at a Golden Corral. It's insane how big this is. If this steering wheel were to fly on a Southwest flight, they would give it 2 seats. No questions asked. The shifter is one point that, you know, this is something you're gonna touch every day. It kind of has this cheap feel to it. I feel like it could be a little bit more refined. But again, if this is starting at $50,000, some of these things at the $50,000 price point are gonna travel up to the F-150s that cost $100,000. So I can get how those things could be annoying, but it's not that big of a deal. More on the infotainment here, you can see you can have locking differential. You can turn that on and off, and then you have one pedal driving, which we will keep turned on. Overall, the navigation screen is very nice, fairly responsive. There's just a little bit of a glitch to it. You can see how when I go between screens, it's just not smooth, whereas the infotainment in Teslas and in the Rivian, I think, is a lot better. It does show us elevation, which that's cool. I always love to see elevation. But overall, the F-150, and I am gonna drive both of these, this surprised me a lot. And I've driven one before, but this one has a 0 to 60 time of around 4 seconds. There's so much more space. You can get it significantly cheaper than a Rivian. I actually found the tag to this for what they had it listed for at one point, and the dealer ripped it off. They had this listed for $80,000 with a $15,000 added dealer markup. So never pay over MSRP for a car. The used market is different. I think if they're gonna be selling these for $50,000, there's a world that I see, like let's say you're a farmer in Nebraska or something like that, and you're going like a fixed distance around your farm all the time. You could have solar panels, or you could have wind turbines. A lot of farms already do, putting energy into a battery storage system, which you're then able to charge your truck with. So you could kind of have this closed loop that you could see a return on. I think for most people like me who buy the Rivian or whatever, I'm not gonna see a return because I'm not spending money on gas. It's just you want the car because it's shiny and new, and that's the truth. This F-150 does a really nice job of that. I think this is a far better vehicle than the Mustang Mach-E, which to me, it's nice, it's comfortable, whatever, but this is much more useful to people, and this is what Ford's really good at doing, and it shows in a lot of ways. Now on the inside of the Rivian, it's drastically different. All we have are these 4 buttons here on either side of these scrolls. Those are actually buttons, these press in. And then you have these scrolls, and those also both press in, control various things in the Rivian. Onto the screen here, you can see if you want to change the direction of the wind, you grab this and press it, move it around to where you want it aimed, and that's how that works. And when I'm pressing this, my input on the screen shows the vents physically moving, which is actually kind of cool. So the Rivian to me is a much better and usable size for in the city. Driving that, you have to like aim to really focus on keeping it in between the lines. However, I will say, if that's what you drive all the time, you'll get used to the side of it. That's not something to really complain about. The steering wheel on both of them surprisingly feels the same, and I think that's one downside of the Rivian is the steering wheel, in my opinion, is too thin. It feels like a Ford product. I think it should be like a BMW wheel, a little bit thicker and nicer. Overall, it's not bad, but it's interesting that it feels similar to that. And honestly, I think a lot of the materials feel like a Ford in a Rivian, like a lot of these materials. I don't know why that is. I don't know if they're pulling from the same parts bin, but it just gives me that reminder. So it does have a digital dash up here. You have your infotainment over here. I find them both to be good. The one that people are going to like more is probably the Ford because it has Apple CarPlay. So many people's phones are an extension of them, and being able to plug that into your car is a really nice feature, and these do not have Apple CarPlay. This does have cooled seats and heated seats. That just had heated seats, but I'm sure on one of the trim lines you can get cooled seats as well. But overall, I think the software updates on the Rivian are going to be more meaningful. The Rivian also has its own charging network, and considering that the Rivian was always an electric vehicle, Rivian never made anything but an electric vehicle, I think their software is better and more powerful. Ford's is kind of clunky. Sync isn't bad. I owned a Focus ST for 4 years and I absolutely loved it. I had Sync 3 in that, and it's fine, but it's nothing that impressive. At the same time, the Rivian infotainment isn't that like in depth. You do have things like an air suspension that you can adjust. We're currently on ride height high, and you can auto adjust it, and it even has a very high setting beyond this once you put it in off-road mode. So having an air suspension is nice, but even so, the sounds and creaks sometimes in the Rivian's air suspension feels like it's trying to figure it out, and I haven't figured out what those sounds are. The F-150 rides like a dream. You can feel it's very heavy, but because it has so much torque, has like 700 pound-feet of torque, it's incredibly fast off the line and getting out of the hole. It's really impressive, and I can't say enough about how smooth that is without an air suspension like the Rivian has. But the Rivian's just, like, you look at the materials in here. You got the wood, you have the Alcantara liner, or suede liner, nice sound system. You have this panoramic roof here. All of them come with a panoramic roof, whereas the Ford, you can option to not have that. This is just two totally different markets, but what you guys want to know more about is how do they drive, and we're going to do that here in a second. The other thing to notice is look at all the space that we have up here. This is all wide open. You also have this speaker here that pulls out, so that can be used as like a campfire speaker. This is 2 wireless chargers. It's a charging pad, and then you have this center console hole here. So overall, it's a really nice car to be in. I think it's kind of crazy how much they cost, which is why I did a lease on this. So if you guys want to see how much it costs to lease this, it'll kind of blow your mind. I'll have that video linked in the description. So this is my seating position in the front seat. Now I'm going to sit in the back to show you how much room I have back there. So in the back of the Rivian, again, I'm 6 feet tall. I have plenty of space here. It's more than comfortable. I could do a long road trip sitting back here, no issues. You also have this hook here for your dry cleaning, and you have the USB-C outlet there as well. You have an additional USB-C outlets down here. I actually have this charging cable I love because it's got the 90-degree option there and stays out of everyone's way. I got that from vion.parts, and I'll have that linked in the description with a discount code. You have this rear screen here. It has heated seats, and you can change your temperature, air direction, and turn the lights on and off, so that's a nice feature. And I also like little details like the yellow that they have kind of throughout the car. It's very subtle. It's there, and it's also on these grabs that you have above each of the doors. I think there's little features like that that Rivian does that's very nice. The back seat is simple, just obviously it's a smaller truck. It doesn't have nearly as much room, but it's plenty of room for 4 people. The other thing to note is when you move this down, you have your cup holders, and you have a little bit of storage right here, so that's all good. But you have this cover here, and when you open that up, you have access to the gear tunnel. Someone actually left a funny comment. They said you could be drinking and driving and put your empties back there. So that made me laugh in the last video. Not what I was saying to do, but it did make me laugh. And that's a cool feature. Now we're gonna jump in the Rivian. The first thing we need to talk about though is the air suspension. So currently it is in kneel mode. What that means is when I put the car in park, the air suspension drops to be at the lowest mode. That way it's easy to exit the vehicle if you're in a higher mode. Now, if I put my foot on the brake, it'll go ride height to standard. So you can see the car lifted up there to standard. Then from here, you can go into high mode. Now in high mode, you will keep it at this level until you go over 45 miles per hour. But there's still another mode, and that's with off-road. So when I click go off-road, it says go off-road. Then I can put it in ride height highest. So now we are in the absolute highest ride height mode. So the adaptability of the suspension, in my opinion, makes this very fun and engaging to drive. It gives you something to look forward to. Also, when I put it into performance mode, it drops the car and lowers it and stiffens the suspension. The nice thing though about performance mode is the stiff suspension, it gets very stiff. You're kind of bouncing all around. It's kind of funny, but you have the ability to put it on soft and low. So the adaptability of the suspension in this alone is incredible and very advanced, and I like that a lot. And in performance mode, we can achieve a 3.5 second 0 to 60 time. All right, so now we're going to ride height lowest. So from highest to lowest. Holy cow. So yeah, the suspension in the Rivian it's very fun to say the least. So driving the F-150 kind of shocks me more than anything. It's so incredibly smooth. Now, something to keep in mind is this has 20-inch wheels compared to my Rivian has 22-inch wheels. This does not have an air suspension. Doesn't really matter because it's remarkably smooth. A lot of that has to do with wheel diameter. They both don't have off-road tires. But it's quiet, it's nice to be in, it's incredibly spacious. My GoPro over there, I have to lean over and stretch just to grab it. It's shocking to be in something this large. Infotainment's nice, you can see I'm in sport mode right now, so when you get on it, you don't feel like you're like, oh, it feels quick, but you don't think you're moving that fast, and you look down and you're going 60 miles an hour. Like, it happens very quickly. The size and weight of the vehicle can really be felt on the massive Golden Corral steering wheel. I mean, I legitimately have never touched a wheel this big. The downsides of the F-150 compared to the Rivian, my Rivian gets 341 miles of range. The max charging speed on this is 155 kilowatts, and the range is only just a little over 200 miles, and you have to pay a lot more to get the extended range battery pack. And for that reason, you know, I don't know how useful, like if you want to take this on a road trip or something, you'd be miserable. And people that say, oh, it's not that bad. It's like, it is that bad. It's worse that probably, because towing something is totally insane to me. That's ridiculous. I just feel like this is an around town thing. You want to try an electric vehicle. The argument I run into is you could get the F-150 hybrid truck or just a regular F-150 at not quite half the cost, but like mid-30s, brand new. It's tough to argue with that. It would take you so many years of filling up gas to get up to the cost of what this is. It's like those immediate savings, you know, I don't know, I think the whole, you know, for the environment, the gas savings, it's like, well, electric cars, unless you're getting a used Model 3 or Model Y, they cost a lot. And when you go to their gas counterpart, especially, that becomes very prevalent. Do I like this? Yeah, it's great. It's very smooth and it's quick. Quickness in EVs is important to me because if you want people to buy electric vehicles, you have to give them a reason to want to buy them, mine it, outside of government incentives and things like that. So them being quick is a value add to me. It doesn't have to be a big inefficient pig. It's efficient and it is quick, so I think that's a good thing. And the infotainment and everything in here is nice. You know, it's just like a Ford infotainment. It's not specific really to the EV. The mileage on this is not great, and there's no proprietary charging network. You have to rely on third parties, but Ford will have access, and Rivian will have access to Tesla's supercharging network soon, so that's all good news. Rivian has its own proprietary charging network right now, the Adventure Network or whatever it's called, and I think that's smart when manufacturers do that and don't just simply let their customers go and say, good luck out there. They actually back their product with a charging network. Even though it isn't expansive yet, I think it's a great start, and I think it's awesome that Rivian is paying attention to that. So yeah, driving this does not have an air suspension. It's smaller. One feature that I absolutely love, and maybe truck people are aware of this. God, I just love flooring this thing. It's great. One feature that I've loved, see how the window kind of dips down here? What I've used that for, and I don't know if this is what that's for, when I'm making a right-hand turn, it's tough to see like where curbs and things are at. That window dipping down there gives you the ability to see what's going on and eliminates a blind spot. There could be a person on the sidewalk, a dog, whatever. It gives you the ability to see down, and I really like that feature because of the size of the truck. It almost has to have that. Incredible space, very usable, quick, the downsides, and the interior is just like an F-150. You're not in some luxury vehicle, and I like that. The downsides are they do cost a lot. They don't have a great charging network access yet, and there's not great range on it. So now that we've driven the F-150 and I've given you a brief summary on that, let's hop in the Rivian. Also, if you guys have like unanswered questions or something, leave them in the comments. Either I or someone who owns an F-150 or Rivian will be able to get back to you. My comment sections are pretty clean with people helping each other out. That's the type of thing we like to foster here at the Gjeebs organization. Is that a Rivian? It is a Rivian with a bike in the back. He's an outdoorsman. The other car I've owned with an air suspension is a Porsche Macan, and I loved the air suspension in that thing. It was well tuned. You could, again, really raise it up or drop it down. There was a feature in the back where you could press a button and it would lower it if you were loading groceries in or something. I just love having an air suspension. What I've noticed about this one is you can hear it creaking and adjusting, and it just makes these, like, if someone was in the adventure hole back there and they were just like tapping on a pot. That's the best way I can describe it. It's like this faint clicking sound that it's making to adjust or whatever. Look at the people at LA Fitness. My Lord, how is there any machine that is open in there? What are they got? You know what? They must have like free pizza or something in there. There's no way that many people are working out. I need everyone to be less motivated. Let's bring it down. Get back on the couch, eat Lay's potato chips, and watch the NFL. Enough of this. There are some clicks and things I'm getting used to with the air suspension, but overall it's great to have the adaptability that it has. I'm also interested to take this into the canyons and drive it in performance mode and really push it, potentially take it to the track as well, and see how it does and see how it is when it's in that low suspension mode and how it handles. Now, the max charging speed on this is 215 kilowatts. That's its peak. The F-150 is around 150, which I guess makes sense. Max charging speed isn't everything. It's how long it's going to hold that speed to get you the quickest charge possible. But it is higher in this, and also it should be going up to 250 with a software update. I think it's kind of funny how we're now buying cars with hopes and dreams and promises. I feel like electric cars have really brought that in a way that gas cars never have, with these features. Like with a gas car, maybe if as an enthusiast, you'd say, oh, hopefully it gets a manual transmission soon, or maybe they'll do some body changes down the road. But to buy a car in a company to say, yeah, eventually we're going to be doing this and that, and you're like, okay, and you buy it on those features, and then it's like 2 years later and it's still not there. So it is kind of interesting. Rivian also has its own charging network. Those chargers are capable of up to 300 kilowatts. I used them the other day. It was excellent. It was seamless. I pulled it off the hook, plugged it into the car. That was all I had to do. I really enjoy driving this thing. This fits me more because I don't need a truck, but it's nice to have. Guess we'll cut that view out. But it's nice to have. And someone brought up a good point the other day, is that if you have 2 kids, which I do now, and let's say I wanted the R1S, which if I could have leased the R1S at the time I got this, I would have gotten that instead, no brainer. But the storage in the back, as far as putting a stroller and then having the adventure hole as well, I think that actually could be more functional. There's plenty of space in the back. It's a little cramped with the car seat, but we can do it. Surprisingly, I can't believe it's cramped, but it is. So the functionality of this thing is great. I play golf. I put my golf clubs in the golf hole back there. There's just a lot of holes to fill in this car, and I think that's fantastic. And there's drain plugs, so if you want to fill them with ice and go to the NFL games and get hammered with your friends, watch the game, drive drunk home, you can do that and drain the water out so you keep your IC light cold. It's a great truck. Rivians themselves have the it factor. This is what a lot of EV manufacturers are missing right now, and why they can't move vehicles, like the Mustang Mach-E, for example. It doesn't have the it factor, and what I mean by that is it pulls in buyers like me who would never want. I've zero interest in owning a truck, but now I own a truck because Rivian created something that I saw that looked cool to me. It looked fun. It gives me this vision like I'm gonna take it off road, and you know I never will. That's what they've done really well, and adding their own proprietary charging network. They also do the things that Tesla has done really well. You can't ignore what Tesla does well. And what they do well is the simplicity of all of it, okay? So there's no buttons in here. So I got these 2 screens. To put it in gear, I have this shift stalk here. And it all works seamlessly, and it becomes very intuitive to do. So they've copied the things that Tesla has done well, but then also fixed some of the other things, like having really nice paint quality. They've fixed, some of the other things, whereas Tesla can now be viewed as kind of bland because there's so many Model 3s and so many Model Ys out there. This is something that's new. I just think they've done an excellent job, and I will be diving into this a lot more in videos. I'll probably make over 100 videos on this Rivian, so if you guys are interested in that, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And if you're also interested in leasing a Rivian, you're going to want to click this video right here to show you some of the things that they don't tell you up front. I break down the entire lease document. I think you're going to really enjoy that, so check this out.